This is my review of Elden Ring, the full experience, the main game, the DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, and everything I experienced over 300 hours over the PS5, Xbox Series X. I played 150 hours on both consoles over 2 different characters, and I just wanted to share my experience with you guys. All right. So what you're seeing is just random videos. There will be spoilers here. I'm just gonna freelance this, no script. And it's really about just how much I love this game and everything that it delivered. My first thought is when I think about Elden Ring, you know, you want to throw it in that category of greatest games I've ever played, without question. It's probably 3 on my list. I grew up on games like Skyrim, and Skyrim was my ultimate like Dungeons and Dragons type game where I would just, you know, put nothing above it until Elden Ring. And I'm not the type of player that would play a very difficult game like Souls-like games. So for me, honestly, waited a year before I bought Elden Ring because I was kind of like, it's just going to be too hard. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through it. I'm going to buy a game, never going to play it, and it's going to sit there, and I wasted the money. And I actually play Skyrim on easy until I level my character up enough to gradually bump up the difficulty. And because I don't want to struggle, you know, I don't have the time. So for me, I didn't buy Elden Ring right away. I got it on a sale through Amazon, and then I bought this digital version for my PlayStation and a physical version for my Xbox because that's what led to sales. And I travel more with my Xbox and my PlayStation's more stationary. So I kind of got so addicted to Elden Ring that I wanted to play it on the road just as much as I wanted to play it at home. So it's been out for me over a year, and year plus I've been playing it. But I kind of pumped the brakes. I beat it multiple times, and then when Shadow of the Erdtree came out, I wanted to dip my toe back in, and boy, I got addicted, and I couldn't put it down. I think on my Xbox character, I was at like 78 hours for my completion, and then since the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC released, I'm at 150 hours. So I've almost doubled my time. Now it's not all been in Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm on New Game Plus 3, and this game you can basically go up to New Game Plus 7. And yeah, and I think the reason that New Game Plus is so huge for a game like Shadow of the Erdtree and Elden Ring, a combination of the two together, is because what makes this game great, as you can see on the screen, are the boss fights. And everything revolves around them. You level because you need to get more powerful to beat them. You grind by killing enemies and exploring dungeons and going on quests because you're looking to find the next one to get that great reward that they drop, and to continue to build your character and your class. And all this combination in this game loop is really what it is. It's this game loop that you get drawn into, and when you first start Elden Ring, it just is a little overwhelming because this isn't the type of game that holds your hand and kind of leads you along the way. Like there are hints, and once you understand the game, it's very clear in what you're supposed to do. But the process of learning that, I dipped into YouTube and other video game content creators, but you have to kind of be exploring it before you have enough interest to sort of search out what you're looking for. So for me, what drew me in was the addictive leveling system, especially in the main game. And this is where the main game and the DLC do split, because at first you're in a local area and you're killing like these Roman type soldiers, and before you know it, you can afford to level up. But then you go to meet this castle at a boss, and he just is too tough for you, so you got to explore a little more, and level up. And then over time, it's just becomes an addicting game loop, because you get a spell, or you find a weapon or something like that, and you can't use it because you don't have the proper levels to equip it. So now you're drawn to leveling up not only your main level, you're drawn to sort of picking the path of your character. Whether you go as a sorcerer, whether you're like a traditional knight with a shield and a sword, and you use like holy spells, which they build through this thing called faith. And then certain weapons and certain spells require not only, you may need strength, dexterity, and faith to equip that weapon, you know, and this combination of, it's not just one level you're working on your health, you're working on your endurance. Like Skyrim, the more endurance you have, the more you can swing your sword, the more you can run. You're working on your mind, which is like your magic, your FP pool, which is like cool for Dungeons and Dragons people. This is where you cast your spells and it drains that bar. You're working on your dexterity and your strength, which is tied to your sword fighting. You're working on your faith, which is tied to your holy magic. You're working on your intellect, which is tied to your sorcery. You're working on arcane, which is also tied to like your ability to find loot and increases your chances to find loot, but also blends in with both the magic of faith and the magic of intelligence. And this just complete loop of not just one stat, but these 8 stats that you're building towards that accumulate into your overall stat, just like Skyrim would. You know, you could work on your archery, or you could work on, you know, your shield, whatever that was, but they all kind of accumulated into one pool and made your character more powerful. But as you carry that into Shadow of the Erdtree, it's more about exploration, because now it's about finding these blessings and these spirit ashes that increase the power of your character to handle the new DLC level. And I found that so addicting, because it really feeds into the golden seeds. And the golden seeds are like these rare, and they're glowing trees, and you find this loot at the bottom of them, and they allow you to increase your flask, which is your ability to replenish health and magic. But all of this is so addicting, especially accumulated together. But that draw is those bosses going into these dungeons. I went on this quest where I went into this dungeon, and then I found this sword, right? And then I could take this sword into an even deeper quest. And I had 2 choices with this sword. I could turn it into the sword of darkness or the sword of light. And by choosing one or the other, you can only pick one. So you had to play through the game a second time to get either the light or the dark sword. I do prefer the light sword, but the dark sword looks cooler. And then the ability to like put flames on your swords, and it kind of just peels back like an onion, because you don't discover all this stuff at once. You're like, well, man, I want my sword to glow like I see on these YouTube videos. Then you find the ability to do that. You're like, oh, how is he getting so much damage on that boss? You find the ability to do that. And all of that, and the exploration in this game it tells its story through the visuals, like through the landscape. And you always feel like you're looking at a painting, like you see what a lot of these photos I'm loading right now. It's like it's visual storytelling, like that. There is a story there, but it really is on display in the visuals. Like it just feels like you're always looking at these awe moments, like, whoa, this is amazing. So for me, personally, Elden Ring is a 10. Shadow of the Erdtree is a 10. This is as good as gaming gets. This is the ultimate Dungeons and Dragons experience, the greatest boss fights in the history of video games, the greatest dragons in the history of video games. The loot is so addicting. The game is so much fun. It's not too hard like people say it is. If it's too hard, just go and kill stuff that you know you can defeat. Level up your character and go back and beat that boss. And then the reward of returning to the game to continue to beat these bosses is amazing. In my experience, Elden Ring is a masterpiece, and thank you for watching.